I'm not going to sit here and bore you with a super long intro. If you clicked on this video, chances are you know what a draft grades video is. And if you don't, I'll run it down for you real quick. Pretty self-explanatory. Basically, we're going team by team, talking about the draft. I'm going to assign a letter grade to every single pick and then give an overall grade for the team in question. Going to be talking about all 32 teams over the summer. That's my big twist that I put on it. Not exactly reinventing the wheel, but not a lot of people give each team their own video to shine. Usually it's division by division, conference by conference, and those are totally legitimate ways of going about things and probably take a lot less work and save you a lot of time, but hey, I like to do things a little bit differently. Keep in mind, though, because of that time crunch, this intro is pre-recorded. I'm recording this all the way back in May. Who knows how long these videos will take to come out, so just keep that in mind. You know what team you're watching. You don't need me to tell you in the intro. You clicked on the video, you can read the title, you can see the thumbnail. Two quick things to keep in mind. Number one, I'm not a professional. I don't claim to be a professional. I am very much an amateur, so if I disagree with something your favorite team did, I'm not saying I know better than your favorite general manager, your favorite scout, if you're a freak and have one of those. I'm just saying I didn't agree with the pick. I didn't agree with the process. That's my opinion. Feel free to disagree and let me know in the comments below why you disagree with me or agree with the team, whichever it may be. Regardless, the point is, I'm not trying to say I'm better than anybody here. I just have opinions and I like to share them. Also, I have changed my grading scale up from last year, and that is to say that I actually have a grading scale now, as you can see on the screen. This will keep things more uniform, allow me to stay more consistent, and also provide some transparency between me and you as the viewer. So, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into whatever team we're talking about today. I always dread recording anything that has to do with me talking about the Packers because I feel like I have to walk on eggshells. You know, full transparency, if you're new to the channel, I'm a Chicago Bears fan. And so anytime I talk about this team, there is always, a group of people. I'm not going to say that one guy. There is usually a group of people in the comments who will not take anything I say seriously because, there's, I believe that there's an inherent bias in what I have to say. And, if you feel that way, then I'm not going to change your mind, right? You already don't believe that I'm being truthful. Why would I be able to change your mind? But to everyone out there, if you're a Packers fan that clicked on this video on a whim, or if you're a fan of the channel and you're a Packers fan, just hear me out. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel. There's no bias in this video. Will I take a shot at players that aren't mentioned in this? Sure. I might make a joke about Green Bay having 6 wide receiver ones and finally getting a real one with Matthew Golden. Or I might make fun of the fact that the Jordan Morgan pick already seems to have aged interestingly. But in all seriousness, with these picks, I am going to be fully transparent, fully honest, no bias. So let's go ahead, dive into this, starting out with Matthew Golden, the wide receiver out of Texas. And I mean, I couldn't say a negative thing about this if I tried, right? The only real gripe I have with it is that Matthew Golden is a great run blocker, but you don't care about that. You are not drafting 5'11", 190-pound Matthew Golden and saying, yeah, he's really going to help elevate Josh Jacobs. No. You're drafting this guy and thinking, man, we finally have a guy in the receiver room, right? We finally have the dude, the number one, the alpha of this group. He's such an alpha. He's already making Jaden Reed insecure about his role on the team. I love this pick for Green Bay. You break that long streak of not taking a wide receiver in the first round, and you do it for a pretty damn good player. I mean, Golden, like I said, outside of the run blocking, is a tremendous receiver prospect. Super fast, ran a 4.29. I know there were some people that were upset when he ran that because his game tape doesn't exactly reflect it. Maybe it doesn't, but he's still fast, right? He's still a fast receiver. Very, very good route runner. Needs a little bit of polish here and there, but for the most part, he has pretty much every route at his disposal, and he can run them effectively. Great hands. Is able to pull away from defenders well. Like, he is going to be a true number one. He is going to be someone that Jordan Love can put his faith in, he can rely on, and that is what matters at the end of the day. Also, like I said, he does have some little, areas that need polished. What draft prospect doesn't? I'm confident in Green Bay's ability to work out some of those kinks. I mean, they have turned nobodies into somebodies. You look at Someone like Bo Melton, who bounced from team to team, came to Green Bay and became an effective like wide receiver for after probably being an out of the league caliber player. Or you look at some of the late round receivers that they've managed to turn into competent players. I'm very confident they can iron out some of those kinks with Golden, and he can become that legit number one for them. And getting that here is super important. It's what they were missing. Like I joked about a little bit in the intro there. They had 6 wide receiver ones last year, and none of them were any good at being a wide receiver one. So you get Golden, that kind of knocks everybody down a spot in the depth chart. Some people might look at this and say they have too many cooks in the kitchen. No, they don't. This is exactly what they needed. This was the perfect pick, A+. I literally can't poke any holes in this and say, well, to play devil's advocate, maybe they could have done this. No, there is no devil's advocate. And trust me, I would love for there to be one. There is no devil's advocate. This is the perfect pick for the Green Bay Packers. Honestly, this might be a bigger indictment of how good of a pick this was more than anything. As a Bears fan, I am livid that they were able to pull this off. I am really, really mad that they were able to get Matthew Golden. So, if nothing else, you can take solace in the fact that I said, fuck, the second he got announced for the Packers. But regardless, a tremendous pick. Really not a whole lot to say. It's very self-explanatory, and I'm sure you all have heard everyone and their mother talk about it up to this point. So we'll go ahead and move on to the second round, and this is where I'm going to be a little bit more critical. Starting out, of course, with Anthony Belton, the offensive tackle out of NC State. And my big gripe here is, number one, I just thought there were better tackles available. You look at Ozzie Trapillo, who ended up going 2 picks later to my Bears. Emory Jones, who fell a little bit to the third round, went to the Ravens out of LSU. Even Charles Grant out of William & Mary, those were all guys that I was higher on the Belton than I thought were better players. Granted, I know there was a little bit of a run on tackles going here in the second round, so they kind of felt obligated to take one. But I don't really think they should have, because it's not like tackle is some desperate need for this football team. You look at their roster, Zach Tom is a great right tackle. He is a great player. On the left side, you have Rasheed Walker, who I know isn't fantastic, but he's solid, and you also have Jordan Morgan in the wings. I know if you go to ESPN's depth chart, he's currently listed as a guard. I think that's a little bit silly, especially when you have Sean Ryan and you just paid Aaron Banks. Morgan, in my opinion, should have stuck at tackle, and they should have went a different route than tackle in the second round here, because where I'm really concerned is a position they did not address until the 7th round, and that is corner. You look at their depth chart right now, Keyshawn Nixon is labeled as a starter. That simply cannot happen. Like, as a Bears fan, I'm very happy that he is labeled as a outside starting corner, because that means when you guys play us, he's going to have to guard one of Rome Odunze or DJ Moore, and that makes me super excited. But, like, in all seriousness, that can't happen. You need at least one other corner, and Micah Robinson, God love him, in the 7th round, is not going to be that dude. And on top of that, Jair Alexander is, how old now? Offhand, he's 28, had some injuries. I don't know why I was thinking he was older, but point is, had some injuries. And there's been a big disconnect between him and Green Bay. Now, they probably were drafting with the expectation that he's going to be there. Maybe there's something we don't know. Maybe those relations are patched up. But knowing what I know, given the information available, that's a big question mark. So at best, you have one boundary corner. At worst, you're going to walk into the season with Nate Hobbs as your only serious starter, and he's in the nickel. No hate to nickel corners, by the way. We love nickel corners here on this channel. But point is, you wouldn't have a true outside corner. And you look at some of the guys that were available here. Just to double check, I've got the list pulled up here. This was 222. So after 222, this was one pick after Benjamin Morrison. Trey Amos was still on the board. Darian Porter was still on the board. Chavone Revel was still on the board. Jacob Parrish was someone I liked. Noel Williams was someone I really liked. There were some good names that they passed up on at corner in favor of a tackle that I just don't think they needed. Now, taking a look at Belton as a player, I like Belton well enough. I thought this was early for him. I had a late 3rd round grade on him. You take him here in the late 2nd. But he reminds me a lot of like a J.C. Latham, right? He was someone that went high last year for being big and mean and traitsy, Belton didn't go quite as high for those same reasons, but that's what he has. He's big, he's mean, and he's traitsy, really strong. But we're talking about a 24-year-old developmental offensive tackle who isn't going to be great at blocking out in space, which I guess for Green Bay isn't as big of a deal. But, he's 24, like I said, raw, like character concerns, genuine character concerns. He's been thrown out of games. He's gotten in fights. He spit on people. I don't know, man. This felt like really, really high for Belton. Now, I will say this is a C+ and not lower because I trust Green Bay's development pipeline for offensive linemen. They do a great job with developing their offensive linemen. So we could be talking about in 2 years, Belton's 26, starting at left tackle, and I'm eating my words. But realistically, in the moment, I don't like this pick. I'm going to need to see it to believe it here with this one. I'm really peeved they didn't take a corner, or they could have addressed the defensive line earlier. I know they ended up with Baron Sorrel and Colin Oliver and Warren Brinson, who will help with that. And we'll talk about them later. But there were really, really good edge rushers available here. But the point is, I see a lot of avenues they could have went that I would have liked more. So I don't love this one. And then we move on to the third round, and they take Savian Williams, the playmaker, I'll call him, out of TCU, primarily a wide receiver. Should honestly play a little bit of running back. And this one I really don't get because, again, same reasoning. You pass up on corners, you pass up on defensive players, and you take another playmaker when you don't need one. Like, Matthew Golden was the missing piece, right? He was that final stone for Jordan Love's Infinity Gauntlet to tear apart the league with his offensive arsenal. Williams is just a luxury pick that I really don't feel like the Packers could afford to make. I don't get this one at all, especially because you look at it from a wide receiver angle. Like I said, you've already got Golden, you've got Reed, you've got Dobbs, you've got Watson, you've got Wicks. That's a lot of mouths to feed. You also just brought in Mecole Hardman, who is going to do a lot of the same things as a manufactured touch guy. You have Bo Melton, who can do a lot of those things. Watson does a lot of those things. This is a skill set you already have. And then, you look at the potential of, maybe he's going to play running back. Well, you have Josh Jacobs. He's one of the 5 best running backs in the league. You just spent a second-round pick on Marshawn Lloyd. Emmanuel Wilson played really well last year. And this was a deep class. They could have taken one of those on day 3 if this was absolutely like, we need a playmaking running back. Get a guy like Brashard Smith, who ended up falling to the 7th round. That would have been a better pick, in my opinion. So you're getting this, like, hybrid manufactured touch guy who's got good speed and good size. I get it. You like the traits. He's a traitsy player. But again, I just don't feel like Green Bay is in a position to be taking traitsy dudes. I feel like they're in a position where they need to be taking dudes that are getting on the field and making a real impact right away. They are in a highly competitive division that is only getting better, and you're spending both of your day 2 picks on guys that aren't going to... One guy that's definitely not going to play meaningful football this year, barring an injury with Anthony Belton, and one dude who might get some gadget reps and return kicks for you year 1. And maybe if Christian Watson gets hurt, he can slot into that role. But again, it feels like they spent too high of capital on this type of player. Like, if you took an edge here at the 23rd pick in the 3rd round and then took Savion Williams in the 4th, this would be a lot different. But this is day 2 capital. You're investing on a guy that, in my opinion, should not have gone on day 2 at a position you do not need, and you already have very similar skill sets, if not identical skill sets, on a couple different players. Because again, I understand you don't always have to draft for need, but when you want to be competitive and you have glaring holes in your roster, you should at least try to address those. And you definitely shouldn't be taking your 8th wide receiver and your 4th running back in the 3rd round. I don't get it. Now, this is a C and not lower because there is that upside. There is the athleticism. Williams is a fun player. He's fast. He's big. He catches the ball well, both as a receiver and out of the backfield. But he's like Cordero Patterson, where he's not really good at either one. He's just capable of playing either one, right? He's like a jack of both positions, master of neither, I guess is what you could call him. But he is, going to have good kick return upside, especially with the new rules. So if this ends up being a situation where Green Bay spent a 3rd round pick on a kick returner, I'm going to be even more pissed. But I'm getting frustrated, and knowing my luck, he'll have 150 yards against the Bears one day this year, and someone's going to come back to this video, and I'm just going to say, you know what, yeah, sure. But realistically, I'm not a big fan of this pick. And then we move on to day 3, and they made another pick I really liked. Sorrel, the edge out of Texas. Really athletic, really explosive off the line. I had a late 3rd to an early 4th round grade on him. You take him here at the tail end of the 4th round. He's someone that I don't think is ever going to be a true, like, #1 edge rusher, but you're not drafting someone in the 4th round to be a true #1 edge rusher. You're drafting him to say, look, we want you to be part of this rotation. We want you to get out there with Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness and Kingsley and Agbear and, some of these other guys. And I like that. I like that. I am a fan of that. I think this is a very good pick. This is a fun player, like I said. Very athletic, really good motor. I mean, he does not know the definition of the word quit. Good play strength for someone who's a little bit smaller. He can shed defenders in the run game despite being a little bit smaller. Good run diagnostics. He can bend the corner. He's really, really good on stunts, which makes that front interesting because you have a lot of guys that get after the quarterback. And he can drop into coverage if you need him to. I don't think that'll be something Green Bay necessarily explores with him, considering he's going to be a hand-in-the-dirt defensive end for them. But who knows? Maybe if you want to send Edge Cooper on a Mike Blitz and drop Sorrel into coverage, then that works. Now, like I said, he is a little bit smaller. Power profile isn't fantastic, and I would like to see him develop more of a bag, but these are things that will come with time. It's a 4th round pick. He's obviously going to have a couple little iffy bits here and there, but I really like this pick for Green Bay. And then the whole show they got to make of letting him go up and get his jersey and shake hands with Goodell because the pick was in Green Bay. Like, that was awesome. So this was honestly, Golden was the best pick they made, but just like my personal favorite pick they made was definitely Sorrel. I like this pick a lot for them. Just like I said, a good all-around player, fits exactly what they need, gives you that explosiveness, gives you more depth on the defensive line. Sure, you're bringing in another guy who needs a little bit of development. We know Lucas Van Ness is still in his developmental era, but hey, I would much rather have a couple developmental players who complement each other than have one developmental player and no depth, right? Like, Sorrel complements Van Ness well with his quickness and gives you something a little bit different. So I'm definitely a big fan of that pick. And then we get into the 5th round. They stick on defense, take Colin Oliver, the hybrid linebacker edge rusher out of Oklahoma State. Someone that is coming off a pretty notable injury, a major foot injury. But hey, he's an exciting player as well. He's someone that can be that kind of like Sam backer, can get after the quarterback a little bit. Good athlete, good in man, really good run diagnostics, good bend around the corner. On the flip side, like I said, that injury is there. Not the strongest dude in the world. His bull rush isn't good, and he's raw. But as a 5th round pick, I like it. Good value. The reason this isn't higher is just because I thought there were better linebackers on the board, and honestly, guys that can do what you're going to have him do better. And again, another thing is, like, I don't think linebacker was a big need for them, You got Edgerrin Cooper, you got Quay Walker, and you got Isaiah McDuffie as your starters. Tyron Hopper came in last year. Regardless, this one's fine. This is a fine pick. Like, I'm not going to shit on it too much. I think it's solid, and Oliver is a player that I can absolutely see playing a role for this defense. It's just, with my grading, it's a good pick, however, as it should have been worded, or it's a good pick, but is how I put it. And then we get into the 6th round, and they took Warren Brinson, the defensive tackle out of Georgia. And this is another pick that was fine. I didn't love it, honestly. It's kind of funny because I ended up taking Nazir Stackhouse, his teammate, as a UDFA. So not taking, but signing. And I thought he was a better player. If you want a big defensive lineman, Brinson is 6'5", 315. Stackhouse is 6'4", 327. I thought Stackhouse was much better. Stackhouse is a tremendous run defender and someone that can eat space and kind of open up for your other guys. Brinson, he's a little bit better of a pass rusher, but I don't know. Again, this is a fine pick. Brinson is big, and he's going to bring versatility. He can defend the run fine enough, and he can rush the passer fine enough. He's another, like, jack of all trades, master of none type of player. And that's fine. You know, again, it's the 6th round. This isn't going to play too harshly into their grade. I just wanted to bring up that I thought Stackhouse was a better player, and it was kind of ironic that they ended up getting him as a UDFA. Then in the 7th round, they finally address corner. They take Micah Robinson, the corner out of Tulane. And look, sure, it's fine. I don't have any complaints with this pick. You know, he is quick. He's really productive on the ball. It's just you're taking a guy who only had 1 year of true FBS production, you know, played at Furman before he transferred out to Tulane. And I know it's the 7th round. Like, I'm not giving them too much crap for that. I'm just saying, like, that's my little bit of hesitation on Robinson. And also, I really just wish they would have taken a corner sooner. Like, I really, really hate that they waited until the 7th round, because this just screams to me that they trust Keyshawn Nixon on the boundary. And that's insane to me. At best, it means that they want to put Nate Hobbs out there, and I just think that's a waste. Hobbs plays much better from the nickel. If you're going to play him on the boundary, you shouldn't have signed him. You should have went out and gotten a different corner. But I digress. Robinson, again, is a good pick. Don't have any complaints there. And then John Williams, offensive lineman out of Cincinnati. I didn't watch him. I know nothing about him, so I'm just going to give this an NA grade. You know, I'm not going to say this is a good or a bad pick when I have never watched the man play a down of football. From my understanding, he's big and tenacious and played tackle. They're looking to play him at guard. Sure. You know, it's the end of the 7th round. I can't really say too much either way. But as a whole, I was, like I said, underwhelmed by this Packers draft class. I am still going to give it a B-, though. I definitely think out of the 4 NFC North teams, this is the class that I liked the least, but they had the best pick in Matthew Golden. At the end of the day, the rest of the draft, for me, for the Packers, didn't matter nearly as much once they landed Golden, because that was the number one thing this team needed. I do have my gripes with them not taking a corner or not addressing the defensive line a little bit earlier. Really don't love the Belton and Williams picks, but again, if the Packers literally just had 1 pick this year and took Matthew Golden and then just, you know, simmed the rest of the draft, for lack of better words, then I wouldn't care. The Golden pick was what they needed. That was a home run. That's what matters at the end of the day. Yeah, I'm a little disappointed with some of the other stuff, but I am still pissed that they ended up with Golden, and that's what matters here, I would say. So anyways, folks, that is going to do it for this installment of my 2025 draft grade series. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, please make sure to leave a like down below, as it does help out the channel a ton. It shows your support, it shows you care, and I really do appreciate it. And also make sure to comment down below. Tell me what you thought of this video. Do you agree with my grades for the Packers? Do you disagree? Anything like that, please let me know down in the comments below. I would love to have conversations with anyone who isn't just going to comment the age-old, "You're a Bears fan, your opinion doesn't matter," because I know they're coming, and I am planning on ignoring them. But for everyone else, I would love to talk about this class with you. And like I said, above all else, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, evening, night, afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you. I hope you enjoy it, because you're all wonderful people, and you truly do deserve it.
Had a chance on the throwback. This was an ill-advised throw. What an unbelievable catch by Cole Kmet. And he cups it too. No movement when he hits the ground, tucked up against his shoulder. Wow.
Using that